Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your heart. And you can learn more about my offerings at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. I also have a Facebook page of the same name, and I post daily there inspiring messages for you. And I also have an email list called the Daily Inspiration Email Blast, where you'll receive an inspiring email from me every weekday, and you can sign up for that at my website. But for now, my intention is to cultivate a sacred and cozy place for you to rest and restore, replenish, and get some sleep. And I do know that some of you listen during the daytime. So if you're a daytime listener and your plan is not to sleep, I hope that this podcast brings you an infusion of light and love and goodness. So you are welcome to use this podcast in whatever way calls to you. I will say it is a sleep podcast because I have been using sleep podcasts for years now to help me transition from my waking life into sleep. As I've shared with you before, I used to fall asleep with the television, and something changed a few years ago, and I found sleep podcasts, and I have come to love that moment of putting in my earbuds at the end of a day and selecting the podcast episode that I'm going to listen to and drifting off somewhere in that hour-long episode. Typically, I drift off in the first 20 minutes or so. And I hope it's okay for me to confess to you that I use this sleep podcast to help me fall asleep as well. I find that the angelic energies are so beautiful and compatible with sleep that this has become one of my go-tos, which is kind of cool that I create something in my waking life that is serving me when I drift off to sleep, and hopefully it is serving you as well. So thank you for finding your way here. It is an intimate experience to listen to a podcast. And if you are finding that this broadcast supports you, I am deeply honored to share this space with you. And I do have just a sweet request if you are up for it, if you are enjoying the podcast, if you would please consider leaving a review or a rating on your favorite podcast app. It really helps other people tune in. And if you'll share about the podcast with another person, that would be awesome as well. I'm not doing much in the way of marketing because I honestly just don't have the energy for it. So I am using divine marketing as my marketing plan, where a sprinkle of magic, an act of kindness, and just allowing this podcast to find its way to those it has come here to serve. So thank you in advance if you are able to do so. I really appreciate your support. And I think I've shared with you before that this right now is sort of the magical way of manifesting, is the one that really speaks to my heart these days. And I'll also mention, I don't know if you can hear the shift in the ambient noise here. Our air conditioner just kicked on and it's hot here. And I love you very, very much. And I'm not up for sitting here in the blanket fort in the heat to record this. So I figured we can just listen to the hum of the air conditioner and you will know that I am in the bright, beautiful, cool energies that allow me to better stay connected with the angelic vibes. So if it is warm where you are, I'm sending you a whoosh of cool air to help you drift off into sleep. So back to the subject of magical manifesting. And I don't know that it's magical as much as it is surfing the energies of potential and possibility. That there are endeavors in life that absolutely require efforting and hard work. I'm not saying that that's never appropriate, of course it is. But I also love making space for the portals of grace that somehow show up. To be honest, it's been one of my conundrums with this podcast. At present, I think there are about 40 of you listening on a regular basis, so thank you so much. And, at some point, I imagine this will grow. Other sleep podcasts have thousands of listeners, but they also do a lot of social media and promotion, and to be perfectly honest, that does not sound delightful to me. And at this point in my life, I only have energy to show up for that which I find delight in. It's not that I will not do the tasks that perhaps are not as delightful, such as, cleaning the house. I'm not one of those who gets a lot of joy out of house cleaning, but I love a clean house, so I manage to weave my way into a place of balance with that. But when it comes to illuminating souls and my classes and services, I really engage in ways that energize and delight me. So my conundrum with this podcast is that I honestly have not found the bandwidth to market it on a regular basis. And even just saying that out loud, my heart goes, whoosh, like closes. Like, no, don't make me do it. And so I come here under the blanket fort, in the light, calling in the angels with you that this ripple of goodness and love will absolutely find its way into the hearts it has come here to serve. And you, beloved friend, are one of the hearts. Isn't that wonderful? You listening right now, you are part of the magical co-creation of this broadcast. That however you found out about this broadcast and the choice that you made to listen right now, it is the culmination of a magical moment. And this moment here with you is enough. It's more than enough. It's a blessing. And I share this with you because I think on the journey of self-growth and co-creation, we can really fall into this trap of requiring every creation to culminate in fireworks. Huge waves of success, and according to whatever bar we have set high as to what success means. And I'm someone who has learned to lean into the definition of success as being heart-based. I've shared with you before one of my favorite pearls of wisdom that comes from a much circulated quote that is often attributed to Emerson but was not written by him. And it says, to know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to succeed. And I have really lived my life holding that in my heart. So this moment with you is everything to me. That if in this moment you are able to draw a breath that perhaps comes a bit easier to you, that perhaps you're able to get just a little bit of spaciousness between you and whatever your mind has been racing about, then we did it. We're doing it. We're in the groove. We are manifesting. We are creating magic in this world together. See, this success and this magic is not just mine, it is yours too. Because I affirm that this moment is one that you have called forward as well. That you would have a safe and sacred space where you could tune in, get a little bit of a tune up, connect with the angels, be amused, have a loving, familiar voice keep you company for a little while. This magic belongs to us both. And it belongs to us all 40 of you, or more, or less. That we are here together in this moment, no matter when you are listening to this, even if it's 10 years from now. This magic, this light, this love, it is not bound by time or space. It exists. Isn't that amazing? Have you ever found your way into a book that was written 80 years ago and you feel like it was written for you? These ripples of love continue beyond this time and space. It's one of the reasons that I'm not worried too much about the whole marketing thing, even though I kind of think I should, let me say it differently now that I've rambled a bit. I'm sure you know the voice, the one that says I should. Oh, you know what I should do? I should really go outside and walk, or I really should clean out my closet. The should voice that should almost never comes with something really good. Like, I really should eat that piece of chocolate cake. I really should spend the day just watching Netflix and doing nothing. The should voice is typically that which we do not want to do. So I really should market this. Like, there's no joy there. There's just no, come on team, let's go. And I have become very self-indulgent over the years. And I really don't spend much energy in the shoulds. I'm much more inclined to spend the energies in that which I desire, that which brings me delight, that which fills my cup. And being here with you right now, absolutely delights me and fills my cup. And I hope it does this for you too. So take a nice deep breath in and allow the love of your angels to flow to you now. And if you're new to the world of angels, they are divine celestial beings that embody divine love for you. You have angels. We all have angels. We all have been loved every moment of this lifetime, even if we do not know about this love, it is here. And I invite you to breathe it in as your angels say hello. Feel free to say hi back. Hi, angels. Just so you know, you can be very informal with your angels. My conversations with them are very informal and friend-like. I'm like, hey, you guys, way to go. I could use your help with this over here. Help. Please make this graceful. Whatever that is. I tend to speak to them in very intimate terms. And so I'm going to call the angels in. They are already here, but I love the ritual of speaking it out loud. So you get cozy. You let your body relax. Take a deep breath in as we call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, we invite you to join us here. And we ask that you infuse this broadcast with a sanctuary of light and love and healing and service to each of our beloveds here with us in this moment. Angels, I ask that you ripple goodness and compassion with an extra wave of delight for us. Angels, I ask that you help clear away any old frustrations, any old stories that no longer serve us. Help us clear those away because we no longer need to have those on repeat. And angels, I also ask that you spread a wave of forgiveness and compassion for any misunderstandings, any clumsiness, any awkwardness that exists between us and others, to help clear this energy away in service to the highest and best good. And angels, I ask that you help us center in the beauty and the joy and the well-being of our beingness. That right now where we are, God is. That in this moment, waves of love and sweetness are being bestowed upon us and rippling beyond this moment into the world. Because this love and this light is generous, that as we call it to our own hearts, it also, by its very nature, ripples beyond this moment and this breath into the greater world. May this light find all of those we love and all who love us and all who love those we love, and ripples beyond and beyond into our neighborhoods, into our extended families, into everyone we've ever met. Just let this ripple of love grow exponentially. You don't have to do it. The angels are doing it. Rippling this love far beyond this moment. And notice how it feels knowing that you are not responsible for this ripple. You are simply a point of light in it. You help amplify it. You are a catalyst for it. But it is its own nature to amplify and grow. So breathe in. You are very much on purpose right now. You are a bringer of light. You are a source of love. You are a keeper of magic. And you are a source of wisdom in this world. So thank you for being you. We are deeply grateful for the gift of you. You are precious in this world. And you have permission to simply be. There's so much gratitude flowing through from the angels for you. They are aware of all that you are experiencing, and they bring you strength of heart. They bring you perspective. They bring you altitude. And you have permission to lift your feet up off the earth and rest for a while. And while you do, I'm going to tell you a story. And tonight, I thought I would read to you from a Council Cookbook published by the San Francisco section of the Council of Jewish Women in 1909. As you may know from previous episodes, I have so been enjoying reading through old Jewish community cookbooks. So if you think about the world before the internet, the olden days, when you wanted a recipe, you would look it up in a cookbook. And so there would be cookbooks by authors, right? And if it was a cookbook that was published by a publishing house, typically all the recipes were tried and true, right? They tested them in a test kitchen to make sure that there would be consistent results and that the taste would be good. But there also is the compilation of community cookbooks, which have been fundraisers for churches and PTAs and associations and temples for many, many years, for decades, for generations. And these recipes give us insight to the kinds of foods people ate back then and what kind of preparation they went through, what staples were available to them, what were the flavor profiles. And so you might have, Aunt Marge's ambrosia salad along with Mrs. Goldstein's chocolate cake. And I love these books because they really are a time capsule. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They would use the packaged goods of the day, right? Crush some saltine crackers in with some Hellmann's mayonnaise, and there's your recipe. I've shared with you before one of my favorite go-to recipes easiest thing ever. And my apology to my vegetarian friends, because it is a chicken dish. A can of Ocean Spray cranberry sauce, the whole berries, right? Not the jelly kind with the ridges. It's the cranberry sauce with the cranberries in it, the whole cranberries. And then you take a half a bottle of Catalina dressing or French dressing. And then you take a packet of the Lipton onion soup mix. Just the packet, you don't put water in it. And you mix it all together and you pour it over your chicken and then you bake the chicken. And it is phenomenal. But it is one of those recipes that I'm sure at some point someone cut out of a magazine like Woman's Day or Ladies' Home Journal, and everybody's mother made it, and then that became everybody's grandmother made it. And this is not an original recipe from my family. It is one of those recipes that rippled in communities. And I don't know, I always associate it with home. It's delicious and it's easy, and it uses packaged goods that would be readily available, and it doesn't require a lot of chopping or preparation. And so quite often these community cookbooks contain these recipes that were very indicative of how people cooked and prepared their foods back in the day. You know, probably when the cranberry chicken was invented, it was a time when women, and I say women because at that point in history, in all likelihood, women were preparing the bulk of the meals, and they were preparing 3 meals a day. It was not a time of fast food or eating out a lot. So the pantry would have to be stocked with things that could help make the meal preparation easier. So these kinds of recipes were developed. And a lot of us grew up in eating these foods. Yes, I know I did. So this is 1909. So this is even before the cranberry chicken era. And we're going to go through this cookbook together. I will tell you, I will do my best to read only vegetarian recipes. And in doing so, just so you know, there are many non-vegetarian recipes in here. It was a time of needing to use all the food. You know, so all the food was precious. So there would be foods and ways of eating back then that perhaps we wouldn't consider today. So let's see where we go. I'm excited to share this recipe book with you. It's on Google Books, just so you know. So you can look it up on Google. And we're going to just start. We'll read together. So we start off with an ad from I. Magnin and Company. I don't think they still exist, but they used to be a high-end department store. I. Magnin was, or is, I don't think it still exists though, at Grant Avenue in Geary. And this is an ad for their silk hose, something new. We are offering ladies pure silk hose in black and every possible shade for $1.50. We give a written guarantee with this stocking. Your inspection is solicited at our hosiery department on the first floor. And then there's a number of different ads. So this is one of the ways they paid for the cookbook, is they sold local advertising. So there's D. Silvestri's Choice Fruits and Vegetables. There is Charles Stappenbeck, the American florist, on Polk Street. There is Merced Dairy, Solomon Brothers, Pure Milk and Cream. There is the Waldorf Hair Store, Bloom's Sweets, Lazar Brothers high-grade grocers on Divisodario. Divisodario? I should know how to pronounce that because I live in the Bay Area. So lots of different ads here. Tetley's Tea, they're still in business. A pipe store, a toy store, apparel, a pharmacist, a French confectionery, the Lecton Brothers on Divisodario, Ice Cream and Ices, Napa Winery. Now that's I don't live in Napa. I live near Napa though. I go to Napa for Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. It's about 15 miles away from where I live, and it's beautiful. And so there's lots of other ads here. A dry goods store, O'Connor, Moffett and Company. And now we just get to the cover page, the Council Cookbook, published by the San Francisco section of the Council of Jewish Women. And as I've shared before, quite often in these books, the women are referred to by their married name. So Mrs. J.C. Levy is president. Mrs. David Hirschler compiled this. And so there's a list of the women who were responsible for this. And it was printed in 1909. There's an acknowledgement page. It would be a pleasure to thank by name each one who has assisted in this book, but that is impossible. We appreciate the kindness of those who sent in recipes and the untiring efforts of those who contributed to the financial success of the book. We are indebted to our advertisers, and we have an added kindly feeling for them because from personal experience we know their true worthiness and merits of the articles they advertise. There's a quote here. To be a good cook means the economy of your great-grandmothers and the science of modern chemists. It means much tasting and no wasting. It means English thoroughness, French art, and Arabian hospitality. It means, in fine, that you are to see everyone has something nice to eat. By Ruskin. I don't know who Ruskin is, but then there's a table of contents. And the first section are sandwiches and appetizers. And many of these have meat products in it. So we're gonna just skip those. But I'll find a few I can share with you. There is something called Canadian cream sandwich. So you cream 2 parts of Canadian cream cheese. And I don't know if Canadian cream cheese is a brand or a certain kind of cream cheese. So cream 2 parts of Canadian cream cheese and 1 part of butter. Moisten with a little cream, and to this paste add paprika. Have ready sliced brown and white bread. Spread with the mixture and arrange alternately 4 layers. Press the 4 layers together and then slice in narrow strips. Fruit coloring may be mixed with the cheese so as to have the filling whatever color is desired. This one is called a Boston sandwich, so if anyone is from Boston or can verify that they've ever had this sandwich, 1 slice each of white and brown bread, cut thin and buttered, and spread with chestnuts that have been boiled tender, peeled, and rubbed through a sieve, then mashed with hard-boiled eggs to a paste and moistened with mayonnaise. I don't know about you, but nothing about that sounds good to me. Perhaps I should find some things that sound good, huh? Cheese crackers. Take dainty chip crackers, butter, then sprinkle grated cheese, Swiss and Eastern mixed, on a buttered cracker, then paprika. Put in hot oven for a few minutes. Okay, I was pausing because you know what I was remembering? I had a contraband toaster oven in my dorm in college. Maybe it wasn't contraband. I can't remember if we were allowed to have them. I seem to recall, though, there was some secrecy about it. And I used to take crackers and put cheese on them and then put them in the toaster oven for grilled cheeses on crackers. So look, I was a chef and I didn't even know it. There are cherry sandwiches. Chop candied cherries fine, moisten slightly with orange juice or maraschino, and spread between rounds of thin buttered bread. I promise you I would have loved that as a kid because I loved maraschino cherries. Can you imagine? Hey, Mom, can I have a maraschino cherry sandwich? That would not have flown at my house. But here's another one that involves maraschino cherries. So it's a grapefruit sandwich, I guess. Or maybe, oh no, I'm still in sandwiches and appetizers. So it says, remove from skin the cells and juice. Add a little sugar and chopped pineapple and a few maraschino cherries. Serve very cold in glasses, surrounded with chopped ice or in fruit shells. Okay, well I can't eat grapefruit anymore, but that sounds good. I can't eat tart fruit anymore, which makes me sad because I really used to love my citrus fruit. But that's what happens with age. But there you go, a grapefruit appetizer that involves maraschino cherries. It would have made me happy in my younger days. Okay, we're going to move on to vegetables. Potato pancakes, which, are very important in Jewish cooking, latkes. A few raw grated potatoes, 2 eggs, salt to taste, a little onion juice, a little ginger, 1 tablespoon flour, drop by spoon onto a hot buttered spider, which is a pan. You know what I love about this recipe? They just assume that you know how to cook. Right? It's like, yeah, well, grate the potatoes, some eggs, salt, some onions, ginger, and then you just fry them up. Okay, well, thanks. If you didn't know how to cook, that would feel hard. Okay, let's see what else they have here. Okay, so here we have fried eggplant. Peel an eggplant, slice in 1/4-inch pieces, roll in flour, then mix in a mixture of egg using a spoon of rich cream to 1 egg. The addition of the cream makes the covering less crusty and more tender. Then roll in sifted breadcrumbs or cracker crumbs, salt and pepper before rolling in flour. Fry in swimming fat for 5 minutes. Serve on a napkin with a sprinkling of parsley. So, as I'm going through the vegetable recipes, so many of them involve cooking them in fat. And they're not talking about canola oil or margarine. They are talking about the drippings from the protein sources. And that's how everyone cooked back then. I have, and I'm sorry, this will be a story involving meat, so I apologize again to the vegetarians. My grandmother, Stella, passed away. I say Stella, I of course never called her that. I called her Nani. So Nani, she passed away when I was 8. And I've shared with you before that I am heavily imprinted with food, that almost all of my memories, I shouldn't say that, many of my memories are associated with food. So I have many memories of Nani, and one of them, though, is how delicious her hamburgers were. And my cousin, who I was sharing this memory with many years ago, he said, well, yeah, because she cooked them in grilled onions and schmaltz. And schmaltz is chicken fat. And so there are these food profiles that I think, we grew up with, or generations before us grew up with, that involved cooking things in fat, which gave them an additional flavor profile, which I don't know how many of us do today. I certainly don't. But I just think it's so funny that I can still taste her hamburgers. And I've never had a hamburger like it again. And it's probably because, there were other things in it, because everything got used back then. So, anyways, I just think it's interesting that in the vegetables section there seems to be a lot of cooking this in fat. And at the time, of course, that would make it more delicious. I know if you're a vegetarian, you won't think so. I just speak from my own experience. I'll find some more. I'll find some more recipes that don't involve fat. Actually, so many of them involve cooking in fat. I'm going to move on to something else. I'll tell you what. Let's move on to the bread section. Yeah, because we don't have to eat bread to enjoy it. We can just hear about it. At least that's how it works for me. So there's currant bread. So 2 pints flour, 3 teaspoons baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of currants, 1 egg, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. That's all it says, you guys. That's it. They're assuming you're going to know what to do with everything. So, okay, currant bread. You just do you. And then we'll come over to gingerbread, 1 teacup of sugar. I love that. They use a teacup as a measuring device. 1 teacup of sugar, 1 teacup of molasses, 1 teacup of butter, 1 teacup sour milk, 5 teacups of flour, 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of soda, 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Stir butter, sugar, molasses, and spices to a cream. Add milk and flour alternately, eggs well beaten, and stir batter 10 minutes. Then add soda dissolved in 2 teaspoons of hot water. Bake in shallow tins in a moderately slow oven. This is a large recipe. This one kind of sounds good. It's brown bread. So 3 cups of cornmeal, 2 cups of graham or whole wheat flour, 1 cup of syrup. I don't know what kind of syrup, but apparently if I was a housewife in 1909, I would know that. 5 cups of sour milk, salt, 1 tablespoon soda. Pour in greased mold and boil for 4 hours. So this is for popovers. 1 cup milk, 1 cup flour, pinch of salt, 1 egg. Beat the egg, then add milk and flour, then salt, and beat thoroughly 5 minutes with a fork. Warm muffin tins with a lump of butter as large as a pea in each, and bake 3/4 of an hour in a slow oven, and eat hot. And now we've segued into the pudding section. I just thought this was interesting, and this one also speaks to the packaged goods available at the time. It's grape nut pudding. Make a thick applesauce. And I love that they just know that you're going to know how to make applesauce. Like, making applesauce is a whole recipe and a whole process in and of itself. But it just starts off with make a thick applesauce and put alternate layers of grape nuts and sauce in a buttered dish and have grape nuts on top. Bake half an hour and serve with cream. So I would imagine at that time, making applesauce, you would know how to do that. You might just make it, to have around, and then somebody else makes the grape nuts for you, right? And that makes that dish easier for you. And here's one for lemon pudding. Butter a pudding dish. I don't even know what a pudding dish would be, probably a casserole dish, and line with stale cake. So I think that's interesting that you would have stale cake. I don't know. I've never been in a house where cake could go stale, so that's just me. I don't know how a cake would ever go stale. They would never last that long, but apparently, or perhaps you make a cake and let it go stale. I digress. Pour over a lemon custard of the yolks of 6 eggs creamed with 2 cups of sugar, grated rinds and juice of 3 lemons, 1/2 cup melted butter. Place pudding dish in a pan of hot water and bake 15 minutes. Beat whites to a froth. Add 1 tablespoon of sugar to each white and put on top. Bake until light brown. Now we're moving on to puddings and dumplings and pies. So strawberry dumplings. I don't know, this one caught my attention because right now here in the Bay Area, strawberries are in season. So farmer's market has lots of strawberries. So 2 cups of sifted flour, a pinch of salt, 2 rounded teaspoons of yeast powder, 2 eggs creamed, 2 tablespoons melted butter and milk to make a batter. Grease custard cups. Put a layer of sugared strawberries on the bottom, then a layer of batter, then berries, then batter. Bake 20 minutes in a pan of water. Serve with fruit sauce made of 1 cup of berries, cooked in a cup of sweetened water, strained, and thickened with 1 small tablespoon of cornstarch. How about pineapple fritters? It says pineapple fritters, and then in parentheses below that it says delicious. I don't know why that makes me laugh. Maybe some of these recipes are not delicious, but whoever brought this recipe to the table wanted to make sure that everyone knew it was delicious. 1 ripe sugar pine or canned Singapore. I guess that's the pineapple. 3 lemons. 2 tablespoons of rose water, 1 cup of sugar, 3 eggs, 1 1/2 cups of milk, 1 1/2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, salt. Peel, slice, and cut up the pineapple. Put in a glass bowl. Sprinkle with 1/2 cup of sugar and set aside for an hour or 2. Carefully collecting all the liquid. Sift flour, baking powder, and salt twice. Beat the eggs a little with 1/2 cup of sugar. Mix with the milk and make a medium soft dough. Take about 3/4 of the chopped pineapple. Drain off the grated rind of 3 lemons, and with the rosewater mix in the dough. Fry in hot fat like donuts in the shape of dumplings. Cut dough with a wet tablespoon. When fried, it should be about the size of a goose egg. Then you make a sauce. Take the remainder of the pineapple and the juice of 2 lemons, a little butter and sugar to suit to taste, cornstarch. Boil sauce about 5 minutes. Serve hot as a side dish. Before pouring over cream sauce, gently break open the fritter on top lengthwise. That is one of the more involved recipes in this book. How about peach cobbler? Again, here in our area, stone fruit is coming into season. So fill a shallow pudding dish with ripe peeled peaches, leaving in a few pits to increase the flavor. I've never heard of that before. Half fill the dish with cold water, sweeten to taste, and cover with a rich pie crust. Again, they just assume we already know how to make a rich pie crust. Bake in a moderate oven. Serve hot or cold with cream or wine sauce. Apricots or apples may be prepared in the same manner. I just find that fascinating that that's a recipe. So, okay, just cut your peaches, put sugar on them, and then make a pie crust and put it on there. I'd be like, well, okay, thanks. I need more help than that. And I've never heard that about putting the pits in to increase the flavor. That's interesting. Although we would never do that now because we would be afraid that somebody would, accidentally eat the pit or break a tooth or something. So now we're in the cakes section. Like we had to get there, right? Cupcakes. Yay, cupcakes. Cupcakes are such a happy food. Cream 1 scant cup butter with 1 1/2 cups of sugar. Add 4 eggs, dropping them in 2 at a time. 1/2 cup of milk, 3 cups of flour, 2 heaping teaspoons of yeast powder, and 1 tablespoon mixed lemon and vanilla flavoring. Bake for 1 hour. Wow, okay, this one is called Reliable Cake. I don't know, I think that's funny. And maybe reliable cake was a form of cake people made back then, so it may not just be talking about this is a cake you can count on. So this is yolks of 4 eggs creamed with 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of chocolate dissolved in 4 large tablespoons of boiling water, 1 teaspoon mixed spices, 1 heaping cup of flour, 1 teaspoon yeast powder, 1/2 cup chopped citron, vanilla. Add the 4 beaten whites. Bake in 2 layers. Put whipped cream between or jam or both, and the following boiled icing on top. 2 tablespoons chocolate, 2 tablespoons granulated sugar, milk enough to cover. Boil all for 20 minutes. And just before removing from the stove, add a small piece of butter. So this is interesting. 1 teaspoon of mixed spices. Again, they're assuming we know what that means. I would imagine that's probably nutmeg and cinnamon and ginger, the cake-friendly spices. A pound cake. Who doesn't love a good pound cake? I don't know. How many of you remember Sara Lee? I loved, of course I did, right? That doesn't surprise you. I used to love Sara Lee, and Sara Lee had a pound cake. So sometimes that would be what my mom would get us for dessert, a Sara Lee pound cake. Oh, it was heaven. So 1 cup of butter creamed with 1 cup granulated sugar. 5 eggs added 2 at a time, then 1 tablespoon of brandy, 1 teaspoon vanilla and lemon flavoring, 1/4 teaspoon mace, 2 cups flour, 1 teaspoon yeast powder. Bake 50 minutes. To make a citron pound cake, add to above recipe 1/2 cup flour and 1 cup sliced citron that has been dredged in flour. And you know what? I am going to take this invitation to reminisce about Sara Lee for a moment. Sara Lee used to mean happiness, right? Their pound cake was so good, and it came in a little foil pan with a piece of cardboard on top, and you would uncrimp the edges of the pan to release the cardboard, and then you would have the pound cake there. And Sara Lee was meant to be frozen, so, typically my mom would have some kind of Sara Lee goodness in the freezer, whether it was coffee cake or something, and there was a Sara Lee outlet in Skokie. And so my mom would go to the Sara Lee outlet and stock up. And we had a freezer in the basement in addition to the freezer that came with the refrigerator. And we could always count on there being some kind of Sara Lee in our freezer. And if you've never heard the song Sara Lee that Liza Minnelli sings, do yourself a favor and search for that on YouTube. I think maybe Cantor and Ebb wrote it. I don't remember. Forgive me. But it's a wonderful song that Liza Minnelli sings called Sara Lee that I love. So here's my ode to Sara Lee. Thank you for that memory, everybody. Okay, I just love the title of this one. It is Sunshine Cake. It just sounds happy. Happy cake. So beat yolks of 6 eggs lightly and add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. In another bowl, beat the 6 whites with a scant 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Gradually add 1 cup of granulated sugar, sifted 3 times to the beaten whites. Fold whites and sugar when beaten into the beaten yolks. Sift 1 cup of flour 3 times, then put into the sifter and shake lightly into the cake. Bake 45 minutes in a spring form. Then there's lots of cake recipes. A prune cake. This one is a poor man's wedding cake. 1/2 cup of butter, 1 cup of brown sugar, 4 eggs not separated, 2 cups of very dark molasses, 1 cup milk, 2 teaspoons mixed cloves, cinnamon, allspice, and nutmeg, 2 cups of raisins dredged in flour, 3 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder. Bake in a very large pan and when cool, cut in pieces as desired. Do not try to remove the cake whole from the pan. I'm glad they gave that piece of advice. Then they have a cheesecake. It sounds good. A pint of cottage cheese, 1/2 pint of table cream, 3 eggs separated, 1 cup sugar, 2 tablespoons melted butter, salt, 1 tablespoon flour, juice and grated rind of 1/2 a lemon. Line a spring form with a crust made of 1 cup of flour, a pinch of salt, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 2 tablespoons of butter, 4 tablespoons of cold water. Mix with a knife and then bake the cake for 1 hour. My mom used to make a phenomenal cheesecake. It was light and fluffy. You know, the New York cheesecakes tend to be more dense, or the Cheesecake Factory cheesecakes are more dense. My mom's cheesecake was light and fluffy. And then she would top it with cherries. There we go again with the canned cherries, right? The sweet, syrupy, yummo cherries. So on special occasions, my mom would make this yummy cherry cheesecake. So I just find these recipes to be fascinating because they give us some insight to how people cooked back then. And again, unless someone had household staff, you know, maybe they had a cook or housekeeper, most women cooked all the meals for their family. It was a lot of work. And so a lot of these recipes help make that a bit easier. So thank you for letting me share this with you. I don't know, it makes me happy to go through these recipes and think about the women who made them and how they passed their skills and their knowledge along generation to generation. So here's to those who came before us. And I send you blessings for sweet dreams and love and gratitude for all that you are. So you rest well and the angels will stay with you. And if you're not quite ready to drift off to sleep or you would like some more companionship, there are many more episodes. So go ahead and queue up another one and I'll be right here with you. I love you. Thank you.